This is Tony from Sonata Arctica.
This is Adrian Cowan from Seven Spires.
This is Danny Marino from The Agonist.
This is Ida from Trisphere.
I'm Greg Browning from Crimson Shadows, and thanks for listening to the Great Metal Debate Podcast.
Hey Metal fans, the podcast is back with another amazing artist interview. Today we're joined by Mike and Nina of dark power metalers Hyloxalus. Mike and Nina, thanks so much for coming on the Great Metal Debate.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thank you.
Let's start out with some general background from you both. How long have you each been playing music, and did you each grow up in musical homes?
Mike, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Well, my dad played guitar a little bit, and he always had a guitar around, right? So there's a little bit of that, but I think the guitar thing started when I was in grade 5, and I noticed this kid, like, across the room. He had, I didn't know what it was called at the time because I was 10, but he had, like, an SG knockoff, and I noticed that he was a very popular child with a lot of friends. So I figured, like, you know, if I bought a guitar, that I too could become a popular child with a lot of friends. But then, like, so my knockoff, like, red Strat, which I kind of wish I had kept because, like, it was an Epiphone Strat somehow. Thinking back, cool. So that would have been a cool find, but yeah, I eventually realized in lessons that you actually have to, like, practice to learn how to play guitar, so I got bored for a couple of years. And then I saw Angus Young on TV once, and I was like, oh, cool, now I actually kind of want to do that, so I started actually practicing and stuff. So that's how that came about. There's my story. Nina, what about you?
Yeah, well, being a singer, I've been doing that since I was able to talk and annoy my mother. But thankfully she and my grandfather kept me singing, and whenever she had the money, she'd put me in any kind of lesson with anyone who had a name for themselves. And that got me into opera, so I was studying opera seriously for quite a few years, and I was in the Edmonton Opera Gala for a year. Awesome. Yeah, that got really boring and a little jaded, so I thought, well, I listen to metal, why don't I just make some? And so that's how that came about, and thankfully I met Mike at, I actually don't recall. It was a show, but I can't remember which one.
I think... It was with my band Soulborn. That's where I would have met you the first time. This is like 5 years ago. Yeah,
so yeah, it was quite a while ago. And at that point, I had put out some of my own music and sang at a couple of really small bar shows. And I begged him to come on stage with me to do a growling vocals bit. And he did, and it went off like a rocket. It was perfect. And so he asked me to do this, and now I'm stuck. I'm not going anywhere.
I have to ask, do you recall the song? Was that an original, or was that a cover that folks would be familiar with, that first song where you played together?
Yeah, it was actually Last Crusade by Epica.
Ah.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
It was such a kind of a cringe fest. I was just doing covers because I literally had no band. But I'm so proud of myself for stepping out there and doing it because I had come off of some really heavy mental health struggles. And so to be alive at all was something, but to be on stage was really proving to myself that this is what I want to do and I belong here. So Thanks to Mike, I've actually had something to do with my music career.
That's awesome. And count me as someone who is pro Epica covers. Like any band that does that, I'm okay with it.
That's one of
Mike.
Oh, sorry. That was one of 2 times I've been asked to do a growl on somebody's Epica cover. Because, yeah, McKenna, she sings in Soulborn. She did one of those and asked me to do some screaming. So that was cool. But it was a recording. So that's the time when you realize, like, how bad you suck. And I had to do, like, 8 million takes.
If the comparison's Mark Jansen, I mean, I don't think that's a bad. That's
Yeah.
You know, if you think you suck compared to that, that's pretty much the apex. So, and Mike, speak if you would just what some of your early musical influences were. And I'm Mike, you alluded to AC/DC, and Nina, I'm particularly curious on the classical end about your influences.
Yeah, I mean, I was a Mozart girl for most of my singing, but I really enjoyed my one little cassette of Led Zeppelin that I had of Led Zeppelin 4, because of course the cliche must go on. And I would just steal whatever rock and roll tapes my stepdad had laying around, and my dad was really into music and cars. So rock and roll was always really, even though it was classical, it was all I listened to. And I didn't really listen to anything contemporary until university. And then that's when I found Epica, was in university.
Wow.
So it took a very long time for me to find it, but I'm so glad I did.
Okay.
Outstanding. What about you, Mike?
Let's see. Well, in grade 9, I just learned, like, I spent half of it learning Angus Young licks for, like, that whole year. But, like, at the same time, my dad put me in lessons with his very good, like, jazz and funk guitar player. And so I spent a lot of time learning that. I don't think I really liked it, but like the music part of it, but like, you know, just the mechanical, like the theory kind of thing was, you know, that was sort of cool. And then I got really into Rush, I think because of my mom. She's a potter, and she would listen to the I think I actually still have this copy, but Rush in Rio. She'd listen to that in her pottery studio all the time, and eventually I stole that copy from her, and I still have it. It's beat to fuck. The case is beat to fuck, but I must have listened to those CDs like a million times. I think Rush is kind of what gave me a taste for occasionally, I mean, not so much with this band, but just putting weird chords into things. So that was another one.
I've interviewed enough bands. I feel like every musician, in particular instrumentalist, has gone through their prog phase.
Yeah. Then I found
I
out
had
about
a whole prog rock band.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, it was an indulgent bunch.
yeah. That's prog. That's prog. I think a little later I found out about Metallica and Dream Theater, which kind of that sort of led me into power metal, because I was working in his kitchen and I had we were allowed to play our music in the back, so I had Dream Theater going, and one of the cooks comes up to me, he's like, "What's this? It sounds like Nightwish." And I'm like, "What's Nightwish?" And so he showed me Nightwish.
Oh my.
And so that was a rabbit hole that I was in for, I think, most of when I was in grade 12. So I love that band.
I wish I could go back to when I didn't know Nightwish and re-experience that again. That would be pretty awesome.
Oh, and I think the other big one for me was Strapping Young Lad. Like when I first heard City, like for me, I haven't listened to any music that struck me as being as heavy as that album since then. I mean, that's just like my own personal taste. But yeah, that one affected me a lot. That's a cool album.
That's a great call. That's one that I think is very influential, but not often mentioned.
Mm.
So you talked about the first time that you all met, but how did the band Hallaxalas actually come to be as an artistic unit?
Oh, well,
That's a good question.
Yeah, I had this old.
You asked me. You just said you had some songs that you wanted me to listen to that you hadn't recorded, I think.
Yeah.
And part of the reason, Mike, I ask is because you have had some other projects. You had a current project when you first met Nina, so I guess I'm curious, like, what was it that was percolating in your mind that didn't yet have an outlet in those other ventures?
For some reason, I thought one of my bands was going to kick me out. They weren't. They had no plans on doing that, but I had that in the back of my mind for like 3 months. So that was half of it. And I had this old demo. It was a song that I had written for another band I was in called Storm Horizon that I thought would be like a good jumping pad for like a new project idea that I had, which at the time I was kind of thinking like, you know, do my band Soulborn, but like way more just like power metal and guitars based with just a few keyboards. So those two things are kind of what motivated me to start writing stuff that sounded kind of like this this one demo that I had. That was our song Frozen Rampart. And so me and Nina, thankfully that got off to a pretty good start. So
yes.
I don't really keep track of these things. But yeah, basically, I thought Soulborn was going to kick me out, so I decided to, like, you know, I wanted to start like a new thing. And Soulborn didn't kick me out, so I just had, like, you know, more projects going at once. Gotcha. But yeah, just I kind of wanted to do this power metal thing. Well, it's starting to sound kind of different nowadays. Like, especially the material I wrote for this idea for a full length we have coming up, it's like, it's way the fuck different. Like, imagine our sound like now, but mixed with a whole lot of like extreme metal bullshit. Like there's a lot of just like blatant rip-offs of not too blatant, but yeah, fairly inspired by Strapping Young Lad type of riffing in there. So
I do want to segue into discussion about the EP that you released earlier this year entitled Aposematic. How long had those songs been in development? And then also, what has been the response so far to that offering?
I think I wrote the first one like a year and a half ago, sometime in beginning of 2020. And it would have been, I got them done pretty fast, but then like COVID hit and we couldn't get together to record because there was no vaccine and I didn't want to like accidentally make anybody sick. So that's why we left it. And I guess as far as reception goes, since I actually promoted it this time, I was I was pleasantly surprised. We got a few pretty good reviews from it. And although nothing crazy. I mean, I don't know
it's been good for a short EP. I mean, I'm pretty happy so far with the response, but that's because I know how hard it is to get a response at all. After trying to foray into my own stuff and with other bands, like I'm really happy. Mike's put in a lot of work to put this out there.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
The one
he's
thing-
mostly to blame for that.
Yes. The one thing that I was happy about was that there was only one review that called me out for like how badly I half-assed the artwork. Like just that fucking green thing that only happened because I was like, shit, I have like no money, but I don't want to wait like another fucking year to put the thing out. So I kind of just like, trolled the internet for ideas for album covers that I could do for cheap. And then I was like, oh wait, Opeth, my arm's your hearse. That was just a picture that the guy's girlfriend took, like just somewhere out in the fucking forest. So I just went with my fucking phone camera, snapped a picture of some trees, and I put a bunch of filters on it in there. And there was only one review where the guy went, man, this is fucking ugly. And I was like, you're kind of right. Yeah. Songs are great, though.
Yeah, if the worst critique is the album art, I think that's actually a pretty big positive. People will trash the music if they don't like it. Nita, do you want to speak to your development of the vocals for the songs? And I don't know, were you responsible for all the lyrics?
Mike has pretty much taken the reins on a lot of the writing. On Frozen Rampart, I wrote a few things. But honestly, my writing style is very, very different than our songs. And so I've taken a step back to let Mike make this into his vision, because I love the vision and I've done a lot already with other things, and I'd love to just see what someone else can come up with, and kind of put my lead singer ego in the back and maybe learn something. And I have learned so much. Mike's really challenged me with these songs. I went from a good soprano artist to a singer that uses her entire voice from, well, I haven't recorded any guttural things, but I've been working on them. And that's all come from this ability of Mike to write melodies that scale my entire range, and that is very difficult to sing. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. At the same time, I'm so glad that someone's challenging me to sing these things that make me sit down and go, shit, that's not right. It's still not right. So I've shaped it in that my voice is capable of many things, and then others not so much. So we've had to kind of work around that. But I think I add that classical tone that I'm pretty proud of cultivating through, so many years.
Well, the first single was Voices from the Septic Hollow. Tell us about the inspiration for that track.
Death Clock, The Galaxy. That's where I ate the vibe from. I mean, not the notes specifically, but the general vibe, like that Tom thing. It's very much just like, okay, I want to do a song that sounds kind of like this, but not necessarily with growling.
Just a little bit.
Absolutely.
Well, a little bit. There's that like one part where I was trying to sound like Emperor Palpatine meets vomit.
Yeah, you're talking about that interlude portion there. Yes.
Yeah, that little like that thing, which is way harder to get than I expected. I tried a bunch of different voices, and like that was the one that worked. I tried doing a whisper layer, but no matter how I mixed it, that didn't really work. So like the half-assed goblin thing is kind of where we ended up with that. And the idea that I had for the lyrics of that song, what was it? I hate talking about the lyrics that I write because I still don't think that I'm very good. But the bass idea was like some fucking demon thing that's trying to talk the listener into, I don't know, shooting up a school. I mean, I kept it vague because I think putting school shooting into a song would be like in pretty fucking bad taste. So the lyrics are pretty vague, like just trying to talk you into doing something bad. But that was what was in my head for the whole thing.
Now, I think outside the EP and prior to it, I believe you all released a video with a cover of the Falconer track,
Catch the Shadows.
Tell me a little bit about the inspiration for that. Why you chose that track.
I don't know. I think I just kind of felt like we needed something to do because we put out that demo and I didn't promote it too good. So I figured like I didn't want to do a cover of a super popular song, but a band that was just well known enough. You know what I mean? And
oh yeah.
Plus, it was just kind of fun to ear out all the little bits, like with the guitars and shit. Especially, I tried really hard to get it like almost as exact as I could, except for one lick in the solo is different. But I think for the most part, I got all the little details of the arrangement.
And also, that was the first song that I've ever sung in my chest voice for a recording. So that was hard. Going from a high C to my chest voice was quite the challenge. And it took a great teacher in Edmonton, Sharkey Studios, to get my vocals in check down there and in tune consistently. So it'll be fun to sing that one live. It's definitely a bit of a challenge, but now I love Falconer. So that was a nice rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah, Falconer's sweet. I was happy when I messaged their band page. It was like, hey, we did your song. Can you So what do you think? The guy actually replied. He's like, oh man, this is dope. So I figure if anyone says, anything bad about it, I'm like, well, the guy who wrote it liked it, so cool. Yeah.
Since you're obviously fans, I have to ask what you all each thought about Falconer calling it quits last year following the release of their album.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I thought they had already called it quits. Like they did that one in 2014, and then they did what they said was their final live gig. So I thought they'd called it quits already. So I was surprised to see them release another album and then call it a day. But
right. So
I wasn't too shocked, but I am happy that the record did the quality. I mean, the quality's always there, but the quality was really there for that one. Like that Desert Dream song, I was fucking stoked on.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's always sad when bands, stop touring or break up or join other projects. But at the same time, what they put out was so good that it will last. It's better to stop a little bit early, I think, than, tour until you're dead and hate yourself or hate your job. And if they loved what they were doing and they decided that was that, I'm happy for them.
So we've had a number of Canadian metal acts on our show. We're located in Kentucky, and much like the U.S., Canada is a big place, so it's like talking about Canadian metal doesn't really speak to the various areas. What's the metal and music scene like there where you all are located in and around Edmonton? And how much camaraderie is there with metal acts, you think, throughout Canada?
I mean, I don't know. I've mostly played, except for that one time I played in Toronto with my old band for one of those Wacken Battle shows. I've just played in like the western part, and as far as I can tell, everyone seems to like each other. There's
I mean, you get bad apples, right? But for the most part, everyone keeps it pretty above board. Like everyone's pretty nice to each other, and I don't know. I don't know the far-reaching extent of that, but so far so good from what I've seen.
There's like a few like there's a couple of little like, you know, sub scenes that are kind of their own thing. Like all the black metal bands here, for the most part tend to just like play with other black metal bands, and that's kind of its own thing. At least as far as I've noticed. And also for some reason, like there have been a few like really like in like the new wave of traditional heavy metal scene, like 3 of like the really big bands in that right now are from Alberta. There's the 2 big ones are Riot City and Traveler, but Gatekeeper also started in Edmonton before Jeff Black moved that over to Vancouver. And also, there's a new one. Have you heard of Tower Hill?
I have not.
Oh yeah,
no.
you should go check that out. That project is new. The guy's name is Andrew Trainer. He's put together a live band, but that demo seems to have taken off pretty quickly. So I am thinking they will get pretty popular within that niche. Then like outside of that, there's a lot of death metal bands. Alberta generally likes death metal. I think of any like power metal kind of sounds, we're one of maybe, I don't know, like 6 bands or something. It's starting to go in a little bit more of a clean singing direction, but for the most part, you get a lot of like, you know, you get a lot of chuggy death metal here, which is fine. For power metal, we're Ravenous is from here, and we're playing with them in October. And the bass player that we got for our live band, Corey, he has a symphonic metal thing called Divine. That's new, and there aren't as many of those type of bands here. But yeah, that's starting to change, which I think is pretty cool. Cool.
Yeah. I want to check those bands out, including Divine. That sounds interesting. Yeah. Part of the reason I ask, I was at a power metal fest in Wisconsin, in the U.S. last weekend, and it seemed that every band there was talking about Unleash the Archers, and in particular, what a model they are for what, like, Unleash the Archers is where they want to be as a power metal band, despite the early hiccups in their current tour getting across the border. And so I'm curious to ask you guys, like, for you all, like, do you all see Unleash the Archers as kind of a model? And then
yes.
more generally, what's the next step for your band as far as growing the fan base and opportunities to perform?
I think we need a full length and a video.
Absolutely.
I can't. I'm so scared of talking about performing right now because, like, COVID's going up again. Because the shows we have booked in October, like I'm pretty amped on, but also in my mind I'm like, oh man, something stupid's gonna happen,
sure, and
they're gonna get canceled or something. I really hope not, because like we just got the live band together and that's going really good. But yeah.
I think you're right. There are a number of tours that are ongoing, at least here in the U.S., that are successful, but there's also ones that have just stopped on a dime and canceled, and that's just the effect on a band to have something that's where you've invested time and money. That's so devastating. So I think you're right to be concerned about that possibility.
The one thing that's kind of underscored for me is like, everyone talks about, live. You have to go live, right? Which I guess to an extent is true, but even more important, or how do I put this? I wouldn't say even more important, but I think central to all of that is having good recordings and, good songs, because, that's the shit that people remember at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
You could be like,
that's the basis.
Yeah. you could have a really fantastic live show, but if the songs aren't there, then I don't think people care as much, or, they don't care for as long, right? They go home and listen to your album, they're like, is okay.
And new material
what I mean?
as well. If you aren't putting out new stuff, you kind of get left behind.
Yeah.
Which is why I stopped putting out my own stuff for a while, because it was just exhausting, honestly.
Oh, yeah. And talking about Unleash the Archers, I think they're super fucking cool. I hope they're able to come to Edmonton again. Their last 2 albums have been so good. That's cool for me because, I saw them 10 years ago, opening for a local band here for their album show. And I've seen them play in, like a tiny little bar to maybe 100 people. It happened over the course of a decade, just with them doing tons and tons of touring and stuff. I think that's cool because I don't think sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw them, I think it was 4 years ago in Cincinnati, Ohio, in a small bar. Probably didn't have 50 people there, but you just kind of got the sense, the vibe, and something that I always appreciate bands, that they're giving the full performance regardless of whether it's 50 people or 500 or 5,000 people. You're getting that same professional performance. You got that, and you got that sense of, this band's going places.
Yeah.
I mean, even in 2012, I remember they'd had a couple of videos that did really well online. And so the buzz was already there. So I think what helped that was when they released Apex, which or actually you could even say Time Stand Still to an extent. I think those 2 albums are really where they figured out, that's where they figured out the songwriting. And that's when, especially with Apex, you saw the popularity just explode, right? I mean, I guess you could also say it was because they signed to Napalm, but I think there's more than that. With Apex specifically, we're talking here. I think it's more than that. That album to me is that one's special. Well, same with the last one, Abyss, as well. The songwriting in there is damn near perfect.
So, beginning to wrap up with you with Aposematic released and hopefully venues beginning to reopen and touring resuming, what does the band have planned for the remainder of 2021 and looking into the coming year?
Well, there's 2 shows in October where we're going to be opening for the band Ravenous for their album release shows. So that's the only live plans I have so far. And I've got some extra songs that I'm working on. Just that, really play live and then hole up and write some stuff again. Because I really want to get to work on a full length album at some point.
Yeah, that's our plan.
And finally, what is the best way for fans to purchase music and merchandise from Hallaxalas, including the most recent EP, Aposematic?
Bandcamp.
Bandcamp. I mean, we only have one piece of merch. I printed a few CDs of that, but you could purchase the songs on our Bandcamp because they will actually give you some money when people do that. So go to the Bandcamp, go buy our album. So I also seeing little profile pictures pop up on the screen on the Bandcamp page. It fuels my ego a bit. So yes, go on Bandcamp, buy our music, give us some money, fuel our egos.
And our poor musician bank accounts.
It sounds like the future is very bright for you guys. I'm excited for your opportunities to perform in October. Ravenous, awesome opportunities ahead. I think bright days are ahead for you guys. Love the concept of the band and how you're executing it. Mike, Nina, thanks so much for coming on the Great Metal Debate, and good luck to you going forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.